from Wall Street to Washington, we are keeping an eye on all of it with our Ed Henry, who joins us from Washington out of that healthcare summit. Ed, and pushing ahead to what happens on the healthcare front. What do you think is going to happen next week after this bipartisan summit?
Boy, I wish I knew. It's sort of like the folks who try to figure out, what's going to tell me what's going to happen with this stock next week. If we all knew that. I mean, healthcare, the stock's been up, it's been down. The president's personal political stock has been up and down.
Right.
I think he finally has sort of a crack in the window where he's got about a 1 month period here where he can kind of get, finally get this through. But after that, the window is closing quickly. And here's why. I've been told, and CNN first reported, that basically Democratic leaders on the Hill are warning the president in private that they've got to get a health care bill done once and for all by the end of March. And the reason is, end of March, early April, they go on recess for a couple of weeks for Easter and Passover. Then they come back basically in mid-April. It's a very long recess. And the feeling on the Hill is they're very nervous about the upcoming election because of the economy, because of jobs. President reset things in that State of the Union in January and said, look, basically healthcare's on the back burner, jobs on the front burner. He did that for a couple of weeks, but now all of a sudden healthcare's back on the front burner. And Democrats are warning him, look, fish or cut bait. Do it in the next month. Otherwise, we come back in mid-April. If it's not done, we're moving on. This is his last best chance. So I think I'd sort of give it 60-40 maybe if you were making predictions. It's still not a done deal, but he's got a narrow window here to get it done the next month.
Well, you're a betting man. I think your bets there are
I just
pretty
came
good.
back from Vegas. I was there with the president.
I know.
So maybe I should.
I know you did. Well, on that front and on the jobs push that the president has had since the State of the Union address, we now have a jobs bill passed in the Senate and in the House, although a wide divide when it comes to the price tag. $15 billion in the Senate, $154 billion in the House. Now it needs to make it to the president's desk. What happens on that front next week, Ed?
Well, I think the bottom line is that, the Democratic leader in the Senate, Harry Reid, really took a lot of lumps for doing that small package of $15 billion. A lot of Democrats were saying, like especially in the House, more liberal folks saying this is small ball. It's not going to have a big impact. But he was betting that, look, because Republicans have been blocking pretty much everything the president's wanted to do on health care, on the economy, other things, they mostly all voted in block against the stimulus, for example, last year, that if you go smaller, you sort of call the Republicans bluff. So my bet on that is it's much more likely that they go towards the Senate of $15 billion than the House, well over $100 billion. A big price tag like that just won't get through the Senate. That's the political reality. And right now, what Democrats need more than anything is some victories, some wins in the short term to get some momentum. Because let's face it, they haven't had a lot of victories on health care and the economy, a lot of these issues lately. They got to start picking up some of these small victories, get some momentum.
Finally, Ed, financial regulatory reform. Still, nothing has happened that is now a new law when it comes to regulating our nation's banks. We're more than a year out from the depths of the crisis. What happens on that front?
This one fits in perfectly to what we were just talking about because, again, the president is really desperate for a victory on Wall Street reform here because you're right. We've been talking about this for months and months and months, and he hasn't really found that sort of sweet spot in the middle yet to bring both sides together. I think the good news for the president is for the first time, the Democrats I'm talking to privately on the Hill have a good feeling that maybe for the first time in a long time, he can pull together a victory on this Wall Street financial regulatory reform bill. The bad news for the president, though, is in order to get that victory, he's probably going to have to lose that standalone Consumer Protection Agency.
Right.
The Washington Post reported a couple of days ago that might get deep sixed. And if you start looking at the president big picture, a lot of liberals in his party worried that he's watered down the health bill, that even if they get a quote-unquote victory on that, it won't really mean a lot because they took out the public option. So I think he may get a victory on Wall Street reform, but how do you define victory? That's going to be the big question. Is it going to be serious reform? Or is it just going to be window dressing?
Is it a little V or a big V? That's to be seen. A lot ahead there in Washington. Ed, thanks for keeping an eye on it. And
I got to go back to my desk here because I was just reading something important on the internet.
Who's that?
Well, that's Poppy Harlow. It's your bio. We keep up on. We got CNNMoney.com down here. Even though we're in the basement of the White House, this is our work quarters. We're always keeping a close eye on CNNMoney.com.
Keeping an eye on us. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Poppy.